I was scrolling online and saw a post asking for help. My wife is super thirsty, but she's giving me the cold shoulder. What do I do? As a helpful citizen of the internet, I couldn't just stand by. I immediately started typing up some solid advice in the comments. The top 3 techniques to sweep a woman off her feet. Casually reveal your pecs, your abs, and, your credit score. That night, my rich, always so reserved husband knocked on my bedroom door wearing nothing but a loosely tied towel. I'm a simple woman, I like money and hot guys. So, naturally, I married a handsome, wealthy husband. But I only ever dared to touch his money. I never dared to touch him. It was a marriage of convenience, after all. No feelings involved. We both got what we needed. My family's small company was having cash flow problems. We were on the brink of bankruptcy, and I was about to be reduced to slaving away for the rest of my life. Then, out of nowhere, my dad got in touch with the business tycoon Leo Ford. My dad said Leo needed a wife, and I was the perfect candidate. And so, the two families were joined by marriage. I married into wealth. But I could never figure Leo Ford out. He was the one who proposed the arrangement, but on our wedding day, he looked completely miserable. I know what it looks like when someone doesn't like you. So, if you don't like me, why marry me? My bestie, Mia, has connections in our social circle. She found out that Leo had an old flame, the one that got away. This girl had apparently dumped him and run off to another country. Leo had raced to the airport in his Pagani to catch her. But he got into a car accident on the way. He didn't get his old flame back, and his car was totaled. So, in a fit of pique, Leo decided to marry me to make her jealous and lure her back. My family was less powerful, so I was easy to control. Once his girl came back, he could just pay me off and send me away. But on our wedding day, she was a no-show. It all clicked. No wonder he looked so miserable, I realized. Still, I got what I wanted out of the deal. My family's crisis was solved, I landed a handsome husband, and I became a wealthy socialite, joining the ranks of the upper crust. Mia teased me, "Girl, you're smiling so much your face is gonna crack." I was thrilled, but one thing still baffled me. He could have just faked the marriage, though. Why did he make it official? Mia had a theory. First, he's not that smart. Second, he was acting on impulse. Anyway, don't worry about it, she said. He walked right into this, so you might as well lock him down and secure your spot as the rich wife. But isn't it wrong to sleep with someone else's man? Even though I'm thirsty, I do have some morals. Mia, exasperated with my weakness, practically jumped up and smacked me on the head. What do you mean, someone else's man? She doesn't want him anymore. Besides, he's your husband now, it's totally fair, square, and legal. My unstoppable bestie and useless me. I rubbed the new bump on my head. I had to admit, she had a point. In the master bedroom, we stood facing each other. Leo's face was so handsome it was practically offensive, it made my head spin. My mind was already running wild with X-rated thoughts. I had already changed into a soft, comfortable lace nightgown. Leo was still in his suit. The custom-tailored fabric made him look tall and imposing, like a cold, chiseled statue. The cool light from the crystal chandelier cast a pale, eerie glow on his expressionless face. He looked like the Grim Reaper, here to claim my soul. It was terrifying. A cold sweat immediately broke out on my back. Leo was giving off major ships you off to Africa at the drop of a hat, cold-blooded CEO vibes. All the horny thoughts in my head vanished. It looked like he was planning on saving himself for his old flame. I wasn't going to be able to win him over. Looks like I was destined to be a lonely wife. Before he could say anything, I read the room, grabbed my pillow, and headed for the door. Well, I'll just go sleep in the guest room. Leo's brow furrowed tightly. As I walked past him, he suddenly snatched the pillow out of my hands. "I'll sleep in the guest room," he said coldly. Then he walked away, glancing back every few steps with a look of bitter reluctance. His eyes seemed to hold a mix of confusion and disappointment. Shouldn't he have accused me of playing hard to get and warned me to stay in my lane? After Leo and I started sleeping in separate rooms, we stayed out of each other's way. We actually got along pretty harmoniously. Aside from the lack of a sex life, it felt like a normal marriage. I thought he'd hate being around me, but he came home for dinner on time every single day. He always maintained his cold, aloof demeanor, but he was constantly hovering around me, making his presence impossible to ignore. He'd also make a big show of taking me to all sorts of business parties and auctions, parading me around as if he was afraid people wouldn't know I was his wife. We didn't talk much, but we had a surprising, unspoken chemistry. If I so much as glanced at something for a second too long, he'd immediately buy it for me at a high price, no questions asked. I didn't refuse, either. I took everything he offered. It wasn't until the media started reporting on him as the CEO who's crazy about his wife that I realized he was just putting on a show for the cameras to make his old flame jealous. If he wanted to piss her off, I was more than happy to play along. The only problem was for a healthy young woman like me, it was pure torture. I spent my days staring at Leo's god-tier face, my heart practically clawing its way out of my chest with desire. But I didn't dare make a move. Leo was very conservative. No matter how hot it got, he was always in long sleeves and long pants. The top button of his shirt was always fastened. He was impeccably neat, always wrapped up tight. To this day, I still don't know how many abs he has. Sensing my heated gaze, Leo paused in the middle of his meal. His ears slowly turned red, and he subtly straightened his back. He exuded an air of noble indifference. He pressed his lips into a thin line, put down his chopsticks, and seemed very displeased. He shot up from his chair and threw out a single sentence. "I'm going to work." Then he hurried off without a backward glance. So now I wasn't even allowed to look. I cried a river of tears internally. This life was so damn boring. Mia urged me to just jump his bones already. Otherwise, when his old flame comes back, you'll have to step aside. But I had all the thirst and none of the guts. What if I crossed that line and he made my life a living hell? Leo was so serious and frosty. I only dared to admire him from a distance, never to get too close. He was saving himself for her. When she came back, I'd have to give up my position sooner or later. Besides, my family had already benefited so much from this marriage. It would be greedy to ask for more. Luckily, he was extremely generous. I couldn't have his body, but I could have his money. I had full access to all of Leo's assets. I could swipe his cards whenever I wanted and spend as much as I pleased. And with a full belly, my mind started to wander. He could wait for his old flame all he wanted. What did that have to do with me? I'd have to divorce him eventually anyway. So, I started scouting for all kinds of handsome men online. I scrolled through feeds of cute college guys. I liked and followed guys posting thirst traps. I showered handsome male streamers with lavish gifts in their live streams. I was scooping up all the pretty boys and bad boys alike. Because I was so generous with my gifts, I became the top donor for several streamers. This also got me a lot of male followers. Seeing my chance, I posted a little casting call, offering a free listening ear to young men's troubles. Preferably 18-24 years old. If you're old, you're dead to me. If you're ugly, you're dead to me. If you're short, you're dead to me. If you don't have abs, you're dead to me. And if you're hot and don't slide into my DMs, you're also dead to me. My DMs immediately blew up. Beneath all the heartbreaking stories, there were pics from every conceivable angle. Tears of sympathy streamed from the corners of my mouth. I was so focused that I didn't even notice someone was standing behind me. Our housekeeper, Mrs. Peterson, came out of the kitchen and exclaimed in surprise, "Sir, you're home." I stiffly turned my head. Leo was standing right behind me. I don't know how long he'd been there, but he was glaring at my phone. Are they better looking than me? His face was blank, but his tone was haunting. I felt a little awkward and quickly turned off my phone screen. Then, pretending like nothing happened, I calmly met his gaze. You're back. Leo's expression was still grim, but his eyes were a little red. He looked up and stared at me, not saying a word. His eyes were full of resentment and accusation, maybe even a little hurt. Just as I was starting to get creeped out, he finally managed a soft It sounded forced, and his voice was thick. He didn't say anything else, just stood there looking at me. The air grew quiet, and the atmosphere became strangely awkward. I had no choice but to break the silence and make small talk. How come you're home so early tonight? The moment I said it, the tight expression on Leo's face cracked. The next second, he walked straight past me and slammed the door with a loud bam. I was completely baffled. What was his problem? Weren't things fine just a second ago? So moody and unpredictable. He was acting like a total psycho. Leo seemed really off. He didn't even come down for dinner. The moment he closed the door, I heard the sound of someone absolutely bawling their eyes out. I figured he was heartbroken over his old flame. Not my circus, not my monkeys. I enjoyed my dinner, which tasted especially good. Without that iceberg sitting across from me, my appetite was much better. I just never thought a cold, domineering CEO could cry so hideously. The disconnect was unreal. Mrs. Peterson hovered nearby, looking like she wanted to say something. Finally, she spoke up. Ma'am, maybe you should go. Comfort him? He can't just skip dinner. I didn't do it, so why should I have to comfort him? I shook my head without looking up. It's fine. Skipping one meal won't kill him. Leo was at his most vulnerable and pathetic right now. If I went in, he might think I was there to laugh at him. I wasn't about to poke that bear. But just after I said that, the wailing from the room got even louder. Leo was sobbing, a mess of tears and snot. He had rushed through all his work just so he could get off early and have dinner with his wife. Who would have thought he'd come home to find her drooling over pictures of hot guys? She was so engrossed, her eyes sparkling, that she didn't even notice he was back. How could she look at other men? His wife didn't even look at him anymore, and she was so cold to him. It must have been because he'd been too cold before. He'd overdone it. If he'd known his wife liked to look, he would have let her look her fill. He'd actually been thrilled, but he was afraid he wouldn't be able to keep a straight face and would break character. He regretted it so much now. To hell with the cold, aloof act. He couldn't keep it up anymore. He was just considering whether he should come clean to her. But then she said, "How come you're home so early tonight?" What did she mean by that? Was she annoyed that he came home early and interrupted her man-ogling? He was devastated. Afraid he wouldn't be able to hold back the tears, he bolted to his room to preserve his last shred of dignity. He was crying this hard, and his wife didn't even come to comfort him. No, this isn't right. That night, I was lying in my big bed, scrolling on my phone. Suddenly, a help post popped up. My wife is super thirsty, but she's giving me the cold shoulder. What do I do? The user's ID was, "Wanna be my wife simp." The post was from just now. I casually left a comment. Your wife doesn't like you. If she did, she'd be all over you. I was about to scroll away, but the original poster replied instantly. He seemed triggered and fired off several replies. What are you talking about? If you don't know anything, don't just run your mouth. You say that again and I'll have someone find you, I swear. How could my wife not like me? I'm exactly her type. She has her reasons for not making a move. I thought this guy was nuts. I clicked on his profile, and sure enough, his posts had gone from bragging to a full-on meltdown. Finally married my crush. I'm not an unwanted stray anymore. If you knew I married the one that got away, you'd think I was born lucky too. Gotta keep a serious, cold expression at the wedding later. Hee hee, this look, this angle, my wife is gonna be so obsessed with me, ha 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 ha. My wife wants to sleep in a separate room, what do? I'm so sad. Did I come on too strong? My wife kept staring at me today. That was a close one, almost couldn't stop myself from smiling. She really does love a man who's chaste and virtuous. Why hasn't my wife forced herself on me yet? Come on, pull this untouchable flower down from his pedestal. I'm ready. Didn't she learn those dog training tutorials? Why isn't she training me yet? My heart is broken. I thought my wife liked cold, aloof men who are virtuous. Why did her tastes change? It's all because of those sketchy, indecent men out there trying to seduce her. So desperate. I'm working so much I'm turning into a washed-up husband. Is it too late for me to try to seduce her? Please give me some tips, wah. His posts had almost no views and pitifully few comments. The ones he did have were just calling him a psycho. Wasn't this just some desperate husband being ignored by his wife? I'd already forgotten about my earlier annoyance. My heart filled with kindness, and I decided to help him out. 3 steps to make your wife fall in love with you. Wanna know? I thought he'd be grateful, but he wasn't having it. 3 steps. Bro, who do you think you are? Cocky, much? You trying to mess with me? I'm serious, I'll find you. My profile picture was a handsome guy with abs, so he clearly thought I was a man. I wasn't annoyed. I just sent him a screenshot of a chat where I whined a little and my bestie bought me a bubble tea. 1 sentence, and I got a woman to spend 10 on me. That's the power of words, the art of conversation. Use the right methods, and your wife will be calling you baby every day. As expected. The next second, he did a complete 18, bro. I've never begged anyone in my life, but I'm begging you. You have to teach me. I was wrong earlier. If you teach me, I'll get on my knees, bow down, and call you grandpa. The guy who was just threatening to find me was now acting like a good little boy. A smirk played on my lips as I slowly typed. First, I need to ask you a few questions. You have to answer honestly so I can give you the right advice. Wanna be my wife? Simp replied eagerly. I'll answer everything honestly. Me, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your looks? Wanna be my wife? Simp, very confidently. A1. Me, what about your body? Wanna be my wife? Simp, 6 feet 2 inches, 8-pack. Me, and how are you? In that department? Wanna be my wife? Simp, big, long-lasting, and powerful. After a few more questions, I was a little stumped. He said his wife was thirsty but was giving him the cold shoulder. Either his wife had a guy on the side who was even better than him and was getting her fill elsewhere. Or this guy was genuinely crazy, had a warped perception of his own looks, was exaggerating, and couldn't face reality. It was just a guess, so I didn't dare say anything. I racked my brain, trying to approach it from a different angle. Then, a light bulb went off. His skills in bed must be terrible, and his wife wasn't satisfied. Did you ever give your wife a bad experience? This time, his reply came slowly. Wah, we haven't tried yet. I instantly lit up, like a detective who'd found the key piece of evidence. So that's the root of the problem. His wife was probably just shy, and she was stuck with a husband as dense as a block of wood. Both of them were waiting for the other to make the first move. As the man, you have to be the one to seduce her. With your stats, no woman could resist. I knew what I was talking about, because I'm thirsty too. Simp bro hesitated. But what if she hates me for it? I was starting to get annoyed. Why was a grown man being so timid? And wasn't he the one who asked for help on how to seduce his wife? If you're not going to use your good looks to seduce someone, what kind of seduction is that? There's no woman in this world you can't win over. If you don't make a move, another man will. And by then, it'll be too late to regret it. Simp bro got anxious. Bro, you're right. We men should be proactive. Quick, teach me. How do I seduce her and win her heart? If this works, I'll reward you handsomely. I am, after all, a helpful citizen of the internet. I immediately started typing, enthusiastically sharing my tips. The top 3 techniques to sweep a woman off her feet. First, cry. A man's tears are a woman's aphrodisiac. A crying child gets the milk, and a crying man. He. Second, act cute. The man who acts cute has the best fate. When a man acts cute, a woman's soul will float. Third, show off your charms. Casually reveal your pecs, your abs, and, your credit score. I guarantee, 1 second your wife is keeping her distance, and the next, you'll be getting up close and personal. Simp Bro was a little skeptical. Does this really work? I cried my eyes out tonight, and my wife seemed disgusted. She didn't even come to comfort me. An image of Leo's hideous wailing flashed through my mind. If he cried like that, who wouldn't be disgusted? You must have cried in an ugly way. You have to cry prettily, pitifully. Your sobs should be soft and broken. Simp Bro finally got it. Noted. With a master like me guiding him, he was bound to succeed. I wondered which lucky lady was about to get the treat of a lifetime. I peeled off my expensive face mask, washed my face, and got ready for bed. I have a habit of scrolling through my social feed before sleeping. The moment I opened it, 9 photos of abs from various angles unexpectedly filled my screen. I had no memory of adding such a top-tier male model. But when I saw the name, I shot up in bed. Was that Leo? My cold, conservative CEO husband? He usually kept himself all covered up, never letting me see. I had no idea he was this ripped. Pale skin, pink nipples, AV taper, and an 8-pack. Absolutely lethal. I'd never seen such a fine specimen in my life. Finally, I could feast my eyes. I scrolled back and forth through the 9 photos, zooming in and out, admiring every detail for several minutes. Just as I was getting into it, Leo suddenly left a comment. Anyone need some rebar? Got a big pipe in my pants. Me? Is this the Wild West? I never thought Leo was this kind of person in private. Where is the morality? Where is the shame? And where is the pipe? Leo usually kept such a low profile. I never realized his methods for winning back his old flame were so advanced. To get her back, he was willing to use his body as a weapon. Tonight, I just glanced at a few handsome guys on my phone, and he acted like he'd caught me cheating. Yet here he was, shamelessly posting up pics to seduce his old flame. I was so mad I let out 2 loud farts in bed. How dare he? I have to book 8 male models for myself tomorrow. Otherwise, I'll never get over this. Leo must have forgotten to block me. Afraid he'd realize his mistake any second, I quickly saved each picture to my photo album. Just then, there was a knock on the door. I reluctantly put down my phone. When I opened the door, Leo was standing there. I froze on the spot, completely dumbfounded, not knowing how to react. Because right then, Leo was wearing nothing but a loosely tied towel, which looked like it was about to fall off at any moment. As if he was afraid it wouldn't fall, he took a large, deliberate step toward me, stopping right in front of me. He seemed to have just showered. His skin had a faint pink glow, and water was still dripping from the tips of his hair. Droplets raced down his chest, following the grooves of his abs down to the edge of the towel, before disappearing into the mysterious region below. My eyes were glued to the sight. This was way more visually impactful than the pictures. My nostrils filled with the scent of his body wash, which smelled amazing. A feast for all the senses. My salivary glands went into overdrive, and I started swallowing repeatedly. This steamy scene made my words come out all choppy. Wah. What can I do for you? I tried to look away, to ignore the spectacle before me. But the temptation was too strong. My gaze kept drifting back to his pale, chiseled pecs, and well-defined abs. How could a grown man be so fair-skinned? He was practically glowing. I couldn't take it. I just couldn't. Suddenly, Leo's eyes turned red. Before he even spoke, tears began to fall. They streamed silently from the corners of his eyes, and a soft, broken sob escaped his throat, which he tried desperately to suppress. He cried so pitifully it could move anyone's heart. His wet eyes looked like those of an abandoned puppy. Everything was clear without him saying a word. He failed to win back his old flame. Now, his pride was hurt, and he was seeking comfort from me. Honey. Sure enough, the next second, he called out to me. His voice wasn't cold and hard like usual. The end of the word tilted upward, carrying a seductive quality. A shiver of pleasure ran through me. Honey, I'm sorry. It's my fault. I was being an idiot. I was just pretending to be like that before. I thought you'd like it. So, can I sleep with you tonight? I couldn't hear a word he was saying. All my attention was focused on that precariously perched towel. My mind was screaming, fall off. Fall off. I had to see just how big that pipe was. Leo was a little nervous. To give her a bit of a mental heads up, he had carefully taken several risque photos from various clever angles and posted them to his feed, visible only to her. He had also posted a very suggestive comment. Surely, she'd get the hint, right? Leo shifted, and just a second before the towel could fall, he stepped forward and pressed himself against me. One hand wrapped around my waist, the other clasped my shoulder. His posture was dominant and assertive, but his ears were beet red. My head was buzzing. This happiness had come all too suddenly. If his old flame didn't want him, I'd gladly take him. Lust gave me courage. I reached out to pull away the last bit of fabric covering him. With a gentle tug, it fell. Big. And all one color from top to bottom. Leo instantly turned bright red. He reached up and covered my eyes, blocking my fervent gaze. He lowered his head, and a storm of hot, wet kisses rained down on me. We rolled in the hay, oblivious to the world. We tumbled in the sheets, losing all track of time. When I woke up the next day, it was already high noon. I was still wrapped in Leo's arms. Our chests and backs were pressed tightly together, and his chin rested on my head. He was clinging to me like an octopus, one arm around my shoulder, the other holding my waist, and even his legs were tangled with mine. I nudged him with my elbow, signaling him to loosen up a bit. To my surprise, the man was already awake. He let out a pleased laugh, his chest vibrating against me. The vibration sent a pleasant shiver through my whole body. He leaned down close to my ear. Morning, honey. You're awake. His warm breath tickled my ear, making it itch. I reached up to scratch it and replied, As I spoke, I realized my voice was so hoarse I could barely make a sound. Honey, how was my performance last night? Were you satisfied? Leo sat up with me, pulling me into his arms and staring at me with burning eyes, fishing for a compliment. I started to blush, my cheeks growing hot. Satisfied was an understatement. Leo's service was top-notch. He used to seem so cold and aloof, but it was all an act. In reality, he was wild, wicked, and completely improper. He was a filthy talker in bed and an absolute beast. Fierce and untamed. In short, he was terrifyingly good, and I had finally met my match. Seeing that I wasn't answering, Leo tightened his arms. His grip made it clear, no answer, no release. It was okay, I guess. Nothing special. I mumbled a reply. You can't praise a man too much. It just makes them worse. Nothing special? What do you mean, nothing special? Leo was very unhappy with my review. He pushed me down and loomed over me. Then I'll just have to give you another demonstration. I was secretly thrilled. Another glorious battle was about to begin. It was over an hour later when we finally appeared at the dining table. Leo and I sat across from each other. He was giggling foolishly at his phone while sneaking shy glances at me. He looked like a thief who'd just gotten away with something. My phone buzzed a few times. A series of DMs came through. It was Simp Bro, checking in. Bro, you there? I declare, from this day forward, you are my brother from another mother. Ask for anything you want right now. If I can do it, I'll make it happen for you. By the way, do you have any other tips for pleasing a wife? Could you write a book? Having successfully helped someone gave me a huge sense of accomplishment. No need to repay me. It was nothing, I casually replied, but my eyes were fixed on my profile picture. I was suddenly getting picky. It just didn't compare to Leo's. The definition wasn't as good as Leo's, they weren't as symmetrical as Leo's, and they weren't as pale or pink as Leo's. I opened my photo album, found Leo's pic, and set it as my new profile picture. Instantly, the whole chat interface lit up. Leo was just on another level. Simp Bro was still pestering me. So, can you write a book? Bro, please write a book. I really need it. I'll pay top dollar for it. Simp Bro's words were filled with a desperate thirst for knowledge. I was about to type a refusal when, across the table, Leo's phone slipped from his grasp and clattered onto the table. The whole table shook. I frowned and shot him an annoyed glare. What are you doing? You scared me. Leo hastily picked up his phone and stammered an apology. Sorry, honey. My hands suddenly cramped up. But the look in his eyes was strange, a mix of excitement, elation, and wild joy. If I looked closer, it was almost deranged. It's fate, honey. We were meant to be, he said, completely out of the blue. I had no idea what to make of his bizarre reaction. I finally concluded that he had been so thoroughly satisfied in bed that he was ready to forget his old flame and live happily ever after with me. Meanwhile, another DM came through. Simp Bro had stopped asking me to write a book and had changed the subject. Bro, is that you in your profile pic? No, I replied honestly, deciding not to hide it anymore. I'm actually a woman. The picture is of my husband. Simp Bro didn't seem surprised at all. So what do you think of your husband? Do you like him? He suddenly started asking about this. What? You have a thing for my husband? Leo is almost 6 feet 3 inches and has an 8-pack. Each ab is perfectly defined, pale, and glowing, like tofu. Just looking at the picture is enticing. I wouldn't be surprised if it could turn a straight guy gay. No. I was just asking. No other reason. I only love my wife, Simp Bro quickly explained, afraid I'd misunderstood. My husband is tall, handsome, rich, and very generous. He's great in every way. He's an amazing man. It's hard not to like him, I replied after a moment's thought, not skimping on the praise. Leo really was a good guy. Even though it was an arranged marriage, and he was cold to me at first, he seemed to treat me well. He would defend me in front of others and paid attention to my preferences. He never interfered with or asked about my private life, gave me the respect and dignity I deserved, and was always thoughtful. It was impossible to find fault with him. Sometimes I felt like he wasn't just acting. This was just who he was. If he was so great, why didn't his old flame want him? I put down my phone and looked up, only to be met by a pair of eyes dark with desire. Leo was staring at me quietly, his dark eyes filled with a smile, as if he could see right through me. Having just praised him to someone else, I felt like I'd been caught in the act. My cheeks flushed, and I casually looked away. Leo continued to stare at me without blinking. His gaze made me feel uncomfortable, and I shot him an irritated glare. Realizing I was about to get angry, the man finally took the hint and reined it in. Leo had a meeting at the company that afternoon. He left reluctantly, looking back every 3 steps. He was acting as clingy as a guy who just had sex for the first time. Honestly, I think it's just because my own charm is too powerful, too captivating. I stretched languidly and went back to my room to catch up on sleep. I was sleeping like the dead when I was jolted awake by the frantic ringing of my phone. It was Mia. "Chloe, your husband's old flame is back in the country." Mia's booming voice cut through my groggy consciousness. Leo's old flame was back. She came back right after I finally slept with him. A sudden wave of anxiety and worry washed over me. Everyone knows how destructive an old flame can be. What if she changed her mind and he decided to go back to her? Wouldn't that make me a clown? Your husband is throwing her a welcome back party right now. What are you going to do? Mia was at a company party and happened to run into them. She quickly sent me the location. They're in private room 302, right next to mine. Didn't he say he was busy with a meeting? So he lied to me to go see his old flame. He was all over me today, acting like he couldn't bear to be apart from me, and then he turns around and runs off to her. He can't let go of her, but he's still messing with me. So indecisive, wanting to have his cake and eat it too. And to think I was just praising him to someone else today. I scrambled out of bed and hailed a cab. I had to see for myself how this scumbag was managing to two-time me. Just as the car pulled up, I saw 3 figures in a tense standoff at the club entrance. One of them was Leo. Another was his friend, Connor, whom I'd met at the wedding. They seemed to be good friends, always laughing and joking. The girl clinging to Leo's sleeve was, without a doubt, his old flame. She was wearing a light blue slip dress, and tears had smudged her delicate makeup, but instead of looking messy, it only made her look more fragile. I don't believe you two could have feelings for each other this quickly. You don't love her, right? The girl's choked but clear voice carried right to my ears. Leo looked down, his lips moving. I couldn't tell what he was saying to her, but the next second, as if sensing something, he looked in my direction. Our eyes met, and I saw the panic in his gaze as clear as day. There was no point in getting out of the car to confront him anymore. If I made a scene, I, the newcomer, would probably be the one who ended up looking bad. I calmly pulled my gaze away and told the driver, "Let's go." I was trying to be dignified. In reality, I was cursing him out in my head the entire ride. Leo, that bastard. Seeing the car start to move, Leo instinctively ran after it. He was shouting as he chased, but the car didn't slow down. If anything, it sped up. He was panicked and frantic. It looked like his wife had misunderstood. He was so wronged. He had just finished his meeting and was about to head home to cuddle with his wife when that idiot Connor called, saying they hadn't had a drink together since he got married and that they should catch up. The moment he walked into the private room and saw Wendy, he knew his good friend had set him up. Connor looked at him with sad, guilty eyes. "Leo, I'm sorry. I just can't say no to Wendy." Leo had turned to leave immediately, but Wendy chased after him and stopped him. In response to her question, he had said coldly, "If I didn't love her, why would I have gone to all the trouble to marry her? Let go. This is your last warning." After saying that, he looked up in frustration and happened to see his wife had arrived. Her face was blank, and she was watching him with cold eyes. She had clearly misunderstood, and he panicked. Connor was still making things worse. "Leo, don't be so harsh with Wendy. If you're going to blame someone, blame me. I'm the one who invited you." Connor was so head over heels for Wendy he would do anything for her, even setting her up with him, her crush. Last time, he had even borrowed Leo's car to chase after Wendy, gotten into an accident, and wrecked his beloved car. And now, he had made his wife angry and caused her to run off. This friend was no good. A walking disaster. He had no more energy to deal with this messy drama, which had nothing to do with him anyway. He left them there and sped off in his car to chase after his wife. Leo got home fast, just a few moments after I did. He was banging on the door frantically. "Honey, open the door. Did you misunderstand something? There's nothing going on between me and Wendy. I've rejected her clearly many times. Connor tricked me into going this time to help her out. Can you please just open the door?" Let's talk about this face to face. I was still fuming and didn't want to hear any of it. But the content of his words confused me. Wasn't Wendy his old flame? Why would Leo have rejected her many times? I was just about to open the door to let him in and explain when I realized it had gone silent outside. So, he was just making up lies to placate me, and he didn't even have the patience to wait? He just left? Realizing I'd been played, I was furious and was about to contact my lawyer to draft a divorce agreement. I might be thirsty, but I know my place. Now that his old flame was back, if he was going to choose her, he wouldn't have to be the one to bring up divorce. Just as I opened my phone, I received a DM from Simp Bro, asking for help. How do you comfort your wife when she's angry? What's the fastest way to get her to stop being mad? Do the pecs and abs still work? Can I just go up and kiss her? See? This is the difference between men. Why couldn't this guy be my husband? Other guys only have eyes for their wives. Mine? He's got his cake and is eyeing the bakery. I was still seeing red and wasn't in the mood to be nice to anyone. I don't know, don't ask me. Because I'm really angry right now too. Simp Bro replied quickly. So if your husband made you angry, what would he have to do for you to forgive him? I don't have a husband anymore. Huh? I'm about to get a new one. No, don't, honey. Can we not? I can't live without you now. You know I've never had a wife since I was little, wah. Simp Bro's sudden change in tone made my brain short-circuit for a second. Simp Bro. Is Leo? My brain went into overdrive, and as my thoughts gradually cleared, I heard Leo's tearful voice from outside the door. Honey, open the door, please don't leave me. I know I was wrong. I should have pushed her hand away immediately. I just washed my hands, and I changed my clothes. Leo was standing at the door, his eyes wet and red. When he saw me open it, his eyes lit up. He was holding his phone, the screen still on. I saw the familiar chat interface. All his previous reactions, the posts he made, I pieced it all together, and it finally formed a complete picture. So, I was the one that got away all along? His thirsty wife was me, and I was teaching him how to seduce myself? I was shocked, thrilled, and mortified all at once. Leo stepped forward and pulled me into a tight hug. Honey, don't be angry. It's all a misunderstanding. I can explain. I cut him off. You want to be my simp? Leo froze, and then his face turned bright red. Mission accomplished. I was satisfied. I couldn't be the only one who was embarrassed. But the next second, he grabbed my hand, pressed it against his pecs, and guided it down his abs. You're shameless. I spat at him. But I didn't resist, letting him continue. You taught me this, honey, Leo said with a wicked grin, feeling bold. As he put on a show for me, he explained the whole drama from earlier. Wendy was his friend Connor's old flame. Connor loved Wendy, but Wendy loved Leo. He had rejected Wendy clearly many times, telling her he already had someone he loved, but she wouldn't give up. To make her give up for good, he had told her he was finally getting his wish and was about to marry the one he loved. But Wendy couldn't accept it and left the country heartbroken. Connor had borrowed his car to chase after her. Today, Wendy came back and Connor, unable to say no to her, had tricked Leo into meeting them. The rest was what I saw, which led to the misunderstanding. After hearing his explanation, I felt a little sheepish. So, it was all a big mix-up. I was too embarrassed to tell him that I had thought Wendy was his old flame. Leo's movements were as fierce as a tiger's, and I was gradually starting to lose my footing against him. The thought that he knew it was me giving him advice all along, and that he hadn't said anything and just kept playing along, made me mad. Unable to resist, I raised my hand and slapped him across the face. Leo's head snapped to the side, and his movements stopped. He didn't move for a long, silent moment. I got scared, worrying that I'd hit him too hard and that he was angry. Just as I was about to say something to soothe him, Leo slowly turned his head back, looked at me seriously, and said, word by word, "Honey, the way you hit people is so special." "Where's it special?" His eyes were sparkling with an excited, thrilled light. "It's especially captivating." He turned his other cheek toward me. "Here, hit this side too. A little harder." He really knew how to push his luck. He leaned down to kiss me. "The way you look at me with a cold face, all angry and ignoring me, is so captivating too." He kept kissing me while looking at me, his eyes sticky and sweet like candy. I was very curious. When did I become the one he loved? I don't remember us ever meeting before. Leo's body tensed, and his expression became a little unnatural. "You've always been a helpful person. It's normal that you'd forget saving me." My interest was instantly piqued. "So I saved you? Where? How?" Leo seemed to find it hard to talk about. He mumbled, "Well, for example, I fell into the water and you saved me." "Oh well, it's okay if you forgot. As long as I remember." "But I can't swim." He probably remembered wrong. I wanted to ask for more details, but Leo clammed up. His assault became even more ferocious, and my words dissolved into incoherent moans. I couldn't ask any more questions. I could tell he didn't want to talk about it. Oh well. We have a long future ahead of us. I'm sure I'll figure it out myself eventually. Epilogue. Leo was, indeed, too embarrassed to talk about it. His wife had completely forgotten that they had met 3 times before. And each time, he had been at his most pathetic and embarrassing. The first time, he had taken a bet with a friend to get honey from a wild beehive without any protective gear. He ended up getting stung until his face swelled up like a pig's. To escape the swarm, he ran for his life. His wife's car happened to be passing by, and she kindly let him hide inside. Then, being a good Samaritan, she drove him to the hospital. The second time was at a bar. He lost a game of dares and had to try to sell drinks with his still swollen face. He stood there for half an hour, and no one bought a thing. Then, he ran into his wife again. She saw him, paused for a second, and recognized his awkwardness. Without hesitation, she generously bought a round from him, saving him from the predicament and letting him off the hook. In just 2 days, he had met her twice, and both times she had come to his rescue. He felt it must have been fate, a destiny arranged by the heavens. He immediately asked around for her name and personal information and started secretly keeping tabs on her. Later, he began to take over the family business. To toughen him up, his family sent him to manage a tourist resort project they had invested in, handling its operations and expansion. The next time he saw her, she was eating at a rustic farmhouse restaurant with a friend. Her friend seemed heartbroken, and his wife was completely focused on comforting her, not noticing him at all. His wife was piling food onto her friend's plate and chattering away. "I told you that guy named Evans was no good. Look at the crow's feet on him, he's a total player. He had bad intentions from the start. His shirt was unbuttoned halfway down to his stomach. He was practically seducing you. What kind of decent guy dresses like that? No sense of male decency. You can tell he's a total flirt." He subconsciously looked down at himself and then quietly buttoned the top 2 buttons of his shirt. He pricked up his ears to keep listening, wanting to know what kind of man she liked. "You should find a guy who's cold and aloof. Those guys are definitely virtuous." Her friend was confused and looked at her like she was crazy. "Cold and aloof? How would a guy like that ever notice you?" His wife looked mysterious and said calmly, "Don't you get the appeal of pulling an untouchable ice prince down from his pedestal? The fun of a man is in training him slowly. I just learned a dog training tutorial online. The first step is..." He listened, his face burning, but he took careful notes because he wanted to be that dog. The resort was only half built. The other side, which hadn't been expanded yet, was all old, low-slung buildings. Halfway through his inspection, his stomach started acting up. He was sweating bullets and abandoned his project team to search for a bathroom. Desperate times called for desperate measures. He couldn't hold it any longer and finally found an outhouse. But as soon as he stepped onto the wooden planks, they rotted and gave way under his weight. He fell into the cesspit. He was covered in thick, sticky excrement. Wriggling around with him were dense clusters of writhing white maggots. The more he struggled, the deeper he sank. In his moment of despair, his wife appeared. She descended like a goddess from the heavens and fished him out with a manure ladle. Later, he stood in front of the mirror countless times, practicing his micro-expressions, adjusting his demeanor over and over. He racked his brain to design the most romantic, unforgettable chance encounter, wanting her to see him in a new light. He wanted to appear before her in the most dazzling way, in the way she liked most, but he was terrified she would recognize him. While he was wrestling with this internal conflict, her family's company ran into some trouble. He knew his chance had come. One morning, his wife started retching out of nowhere. She leaned against the table and threw up all over the floor, emptying her stomach of the breakfast she had just eaten. He was ecstatic and rushed to support her. "Honey, am I going to be a dad?" But his wife slapped his hand away in disgust and stared at him in disbelief. "Oh, so it was you. I pull you out, and you get crap all over me." Oops. His wife had finally remembered. He swore he absolutely hadn't done it on purpose at the time. For a while after that, his wife wouldn't get intimate with him. She was disgusted.